So thanks everyone for joining us again. This is our final artist of the day, but she is not last in our hearts or affection. And you're going to bring us home, Cree, and tell us a little bit about your work. Cree is in the project space this February and works with, is analog the right word?
Yes.
Analog photographic materials. And I was thinking about this on the way over today. Recently we moved and I found all these film canisters that have never been developed. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I can get them developed and see what these are, because they're like 35 years old now and I have no idea what's on them. So I would love to hear, and we all would love to hear, all about your installation and how, where you get your ideas and influences from.
Well, to begin with, I literally grew up with photography. My dad was head of the experimental division of Kodak. So one of my fondest memories was about 5 years old, standing about nose high up to the chemical bins. And my job was to have 1 monkey, 2 monkey, 3 monkey. So I have always loved the smell of the chemicals and darkroom. It's luscious to me. And I was very slow to go from analog to digital photography, just because of the whole, something wonderful about developing the film, although I became a real advocate of digital photography. But when I went to the museum school, I think because of my background, I was in a class with David Kelly, and he had, Rhoda, by the way, was my first instructor at the museum school, wow. So very special to me. I was with David Kelly, and he gave us an assignment to have, make a collage using several surfaces and several mediums. And so I happened to be going to the photographic store that day, which now all of them are gone. Zona, Ferranti. I used to collect all my materials there. I'd go diving into their bins, and they used to collect pieces of film for me because they knew I was into it. And so I went and I happened to see a sleeve of 35mm slide mounts. And I said, surfaces. So I went home that day and I started making these little images just out of found paper or anything that attracted my eye, put them inside of these 35mm slide mounts. And it just started a whole process with me. As it turned out, for a drawing show, it was over at Cyclorama, they had, I went in, had been accepted into the show, and I had made a whole sheet of these 35mm slide drawings, and I went to give them to them, and they said, oh, we're not accepting slides, we're only taking the actual work. And I said, this is the actual work. But it started a whole process for me. It just, the materials spoke to me. I just love everything about the film, the materials. I've been working with it now for over 20 years, more than 20 years. And I keep thinking, well, maybe I should move on, but I keep getting more and more ideas. And there's just so many ways: installation, drawing, painting, I've done videos. And in this case, with as in some of my work, some of the times I actually think about exactly what I want, and I try to think of the materials that are best suited for that piece. In this case, with Scorched, which is this little piece, I don't know if you saw, with black inserts. It's the back of a Polaroid photograph that you pull off, and I happened to have it because I thought, well, maybe I could use it inside, in part of the drawing or something. And it was on my flat file, so I looked at it, and it reminded me of when I was in California, when I saw all the tops of the hills scorched. They were all burnt from the fires and the heat. So I started thinking about it, and started going through all my photographic materials again, and started thinking about climate change with scorch and heat. So that started this whole process here. And then I started thinking, well, yes, climate change, there's so many problems with the climate now, but there's so many beautiful things as well about our life and our climate. And that's how there was a juxtaposition with the flight and flow and night and day and everything that happens all the time that we are sometimes we don't appreciate as much as we realize that if we take the time to look, they're there all the time. But we're also doing things to our climate now that we need to address. So I don't know I know it's really hard to all gather in there, but you can take a look. A lot of these pieces, the small pieces are 120 film. Everything, I tried to make sure that everything I did was just photographic materials or the film itself. So the film actually makes rather than takes the image. It's sort of this mix, and that's one thing about as well about film and how I use it. It's very much about the translation into drawing of light and day. I mean, light and shadow, which is, I love shadows, of positive and negative space. It's all very much about drawing to me, even though it's a video or it's an installation. It's all drawing to me, so that's, I think that's about what I need to say.
So can you tell us how you came up with the title for your show, Picture This? Is it a play on words, or does it speak to what you want the viewer to see in this exhibit?
Well, the viewer, I wanted them to see what they wanted to see. It was just picture this, and I would put something out there, and that's what it was meaningful to me. I love it when people see other things. I get inspired by that. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. I never even thought of that. I like everybody to picture their own memories or what they think about something. I've heard so many different things that people will see it and come up with an idea or a thought that I had never even thought about. So I love to just keep it open-ended.
Oh, that's wonderful. How do you feel people, when they look at your work and they think about the cultural shift that has changed? I mean, our whole world since 2000 has just been turned on its head. And how do you feel about that? And is using this material part of keeping it and that memory, that cultural memory alive?
Yeah, it's very much about memory. A lot of memories, just personal memories for myself, but just this whole shift. Since I started working with these materials 20 years ago, there's been a huge shift to digital. So these are now, it's very, very hard to find these materials. And you were talking about canisters. I collected tons and tons of these canisters, bags of them. Photographers, when they started moving from analog to digital photography, would be giving things away, and I was just beginning to hoard them all because they were so special to me, and that was my art. It was so it was the shift from analog to digital photography during this whole body of work has been huge, exciting as well. I still love going in the darkroom. I haven't done it myself for a long time, but it's just been an exciting change, I think. My dad died many years ago, but I would have loved to have him see what's going on with photographers, Yeah.
It's very interesting. I've heard recently and read recently that a lot of younger people are starting to, whether for retro or they want more authentic experience with their photography, they're starting to move back to analog. Do you know anything about this trend, or do you think how do you think it culturally what it says about us?
Well, it's a beautiful form of art, and I think there's something that's your hands are literally in it, and I think a lot of people miss that aspect. Again, it's almost like a drawing within the darkroom, and just that magic of watching something develop right in front of you. To this day, it was just one of the most wonderful times, spending time in the darkroom with my father, watching it and being able to manipulate it. It's so yeah, I think it's a form of art. I love having it coming back, and still totally appreciating digital. I think that's a magic too.
I used to be an analog photographer. Darkroom in my bathroom and all that, you know. And our son has started to go back and use film again. It's just, I don't know, there is something, there's more to film in John. It's done film than there is music. Yeah, still, it's not, it's
Right.
layers to it.
And it's amazing too, not just creating images on the film, but how you can manipulate film
Yes.
to, it's just a wonderful material, it really is.
What is it that you like about digital photography?
Oh, it's so instant, and you can, I love to be able to change the images, to zoom in, or just to take a tiny little piece of an image that might not be a great image, but then you can find a piece in it that's just perfect, and pull it in, or do whatever you want. You can, there's all sorts of lenses that you can work with it. It just, I love playing Photoshop too. It's just,
It's a totally different experience.
totally different. Yeah, totally.
Do we have any other questions, comments?
Anyone doing any analog photography?
Oh, yes, here you go.
As a younger person, I also think that digital it's so it can be not personal because you can take a bajillion photos in a second, but with analog, you have to really put in the work to get a beautiful photo and to think about what the photo is and to not say, oh wait, hold on, I need to fix my hair. Take it again. It's, you just have to appreciate the first time that's on the page right there, and all of the photos.
Do you do photography?
No, I just I just think that that's my connection with it.
Yeah.
I've only done the digital. I've never done analog, but I think it's a really, really cool process.
Yeah. I remember one time I had a show for the MFA, and I had these, I don't know if you remember, but the little corners that you put in photo albums. Well, I had fabricated those. Some of them were really large, and I had them in various parts of the room. And a younger person came in and said, "Are those Delft bombers?" They thought.
Oh. Well, it's sort of interesting because I'm standing here thinking about a couple of things. One is I had an uncle who was very into photography, and he used to travel a lot, and he used to sit down, and his wife, my aunt, would go away and see the museum or whatever, and he would stay in a courtyard to get exactly the light and exactly, and he's like, I can go to the museum anytime, but this light and this thing and the people in the courtyard, he was so intent on getting the image that he wanted. And it's like painting as well, because you think about Monet and all the different light, and he's just the most famous one who worked that way, but there are thousands of others. So I love the fact that it's coming back as well, because it is very, you're really putting something of yourself into it.
I love the title to the installations. Because it references something that a friend of mine, I think, when he said that we were working on together, he said, "It's not what's there, it's what's not there."
The negative space.
Right. What's there is what's missing.
Good.
All right, well, thank you to Cree.